Hello. Thank you for taking the time to be a part of my committee, and this is my thesis on delayed discounting of treatment success and staff willingness to implement behavior analytic training procedures by Ashley Marie Walsh. Introduction. According to the Community Survey 2016, the average rate of people with disabilities in the United States totaled 12.8%. Trends among individuals with disabilities are increasing. According to the World Health Organization, between 110 million and 190 million adults have significant difficulties with functioning. Reports from individuals with disabilities describe unmet health care needs and are vulnerable to deficiencies within the health care they receive. The number of home health agencies totaled 12,400, day service centers totaled 4,800, and residential care communities totaled 30,200, according to the Center of Disease Control. Direct care staff and procedural integrity. Current statistics for the average hourly pay for direct care workers average $10.03 per hour, according to the CDC. Delayed discounting can be affected by factors such as income, education level, while other research has determined that individuals with incomes larger than $40,000 discount money less than participants who had incomes less than $10,000. Discounting and impulsivity. Humans can be impulsive when making choices, whether the results are hypothetical or real. Assumptions about rational human behavior is inaccurate and undermines the impulsiveness that typically occurs. Most impulsive and risky decisions involve perceptual distortion called delayed discounting. Delayed discounting involves the process of reasoning by considering that more immediate behavior will minimize the value or outcomes of that decision. The decrease in the subjective value of the particular reinforcer decreases as a function of the delay. Furthermore, many responsibilities associated with a direct care staff position require a high response effort to complete the tasks necessary. Due to the high response effort involved with being direct care staff member, it is possible that the quality of services individuals with disabilities are receiving may be lacking. Impulsivity and delayed discounting continued. Assumption about rational human behavior is inaccurate and undermines the impulsiveness that typically occurs. The behavioral economic assumption presumes that the value of rewards in the future decreases in subjective value with the time increasing until receiving the reward. Steep delayed discounting is associated with impulsive decision making and reflects the inability for the individual to delay gratification. Discounting of present value of rewards or commodities can be thought of in terms of staff willingness to implement behavior analytic treatment programs for either an immediate or delayed period of time until the success of treatment is achieved. Steep delayed discounting may be an indicator of the inability or unwillingness to wait for a delayed gratification. Delayed discounting. Research involving delayed discounting is well known and can be linked to varying behavior disorders and important social implications. In order to determine which choice the individual prefers, the arrangement of two commodities are presented as either the smaller amount of a commodity that can be immediately received and a larger commodity received at a later time. The two formulas that have been used include the standard discounting model used in economics that assumes the value of the future reward is discounted because of the risks that are involved in waiting for the reward over time. Empirical arguments for using the hyperbolic model, which is the other model, allows for preference reversals in the organism's choice between smaller sooner rewards and larger later rewards. In other words, the organism may prefer smaller versus larger reward if there is an equal amount of time added to each delay. The organism may then prefer the larger reward at another time. The second empirical rationale for the hyperbolic model is the prediction of the slope of an indifference function, which allocates the delay. Studies include human and non-human have determined the shape of the function of various types of decision-making as hyperbolic instead of linear, which include smaller, more delayed rewards during shorter intervals, were discounted steeper than longer, larger rewards. Delay discounting has been applied to a variety of different areas, which included addiction studies, sex, gambling, animal and human behavior, hypothetical and real commodities. Delay discounting, or behavior economics, has allowed for researchers to examine why individuals make certain choices that can be detrimental to rewards we may receive. Several research studies have confirmed that there are differences in the rates of discounting of different types of commodities, but has been difficult to differentiate whether these differences represent the differences in the commodities or the magnitude of the commodities. Behavior economics and treatment implementation. The behavior economic concept, delay discounting, describes the current subjective value of a commodity decreases as the length of delay increases to its receipt. Behavior economics has evolved into a way to comprehend ways to contrive environments to promote positive behavior changes that can be generalized and maintained over time. Reed et al. Proposed that behavior economic approaches to service delivery should be based off of principles of behavior as opposed to psychological and economics. That could lead to a better understanding of behavior in specific contexts such as academia and therapeutic settings. Due to the operant language used within behavior economics, behavior analysts are able to provide a structure that is understandable and formulate recommendations on how environments can be modified to promote behavior change. Oftentimes, this is very complex and requires a certain amount of education level to be understood. According to the concepts outlined by Hirsch, for understanding behavior economics include A. Demand functions, B. Reinforce competition, and C. Open versus closed economies, and most recently the concept of delayed discounting has been included. Another type of discounting involves social discounting, which involves the same underlying processes of delayed discounting, but involves increasing social distances for the larger reward as opposed to delayed discounting, which increases the delay for the larger reward. Typical social discounting questionnaires ask people to imagine the top 100 people in their lives, with the first person being the most important to them and the 100th being the least important to them out of 100 people. Above are examples of research that has included social discounting. The implications of social discounting have led to the expansion of research involving empathy and altruism. The purpose of this study is complex. With the prevalence of individuals with disabilities requiring treatment programs increasing, the need for staff willingness to commit to treatment implementation for a delayed period of time until success is achieved is imperative to the success of individuals receiving rehabilitative services. Delayed discounting, used as a measure of impulsivity, is important to the implementation of behavior analytic treatment programs for direct care staff because determining how much staff are willing to discount the value of treatment implementation and success can support evidence to minimize the complexity and response effort required of them to implement behavior analytic treatment programs. This could help further improve the quality care and likelihood of successful treatment outcomes. Behavior analysts could improve the working relationship between the direct care staff implementing the treatment programs that are created and increase the dissemination of behavior analytic treatments. Therefore, the purpose of this investigation is to determine direct care staff willingness to implement and commit to behavior analytic treatment protocols to achieve success and to determine the relationship between the value of staff willingness to implement treatment programs as a function of delay to successful outcomes. Included in the table are demographic information for all of the participants included. Questionnaires were administered in day treatment classrooms. There were 7 to 10 participants that were included inside of the classroom when questionnaires were administered. 32 participants were included, and questionnaires included demographic information that included age, years worked at facility, and gender. All identifiable participant information was kept confidential. Each questionnaire was approximately 15 minutes long. Agency consent was requested prior to administering questionnaires. The researcher was available at all times to answer any questions the participants had. Once agency approval was granted, each participant was then provided a packet consisting of a brief instructions located at the top of each delayed discounting questionnaire. All participants in the study and all methods were approved by the Human Subjects Committee at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. The arrangement of questionnaires provided participants with 55 hypothetical questions where they could choose to spend a certain amount of time implementing hours for a treatment plan for a client for a longer delay until a successful outcome was achieved, or to implement treatment for a smaller amount of time with the delay to success of treatment more immediate. Listed in this slide is an example of what the questions looked like. Hypothetical amount of time participants were willing to commit to were examined across participants for each delay. Each delay across participants was then calculated to determine the median value per delay to determine average indifference point per delay. Final median switch point for each delay was then plotted on the graph to depict the functional relationship between each median indifference point and delay. A logarithmic model was the best fit for the data obtained. Each delay was titrated quasi-exponentially and chosen to match the most realistic amount of time treatment implementation typically occurs. R-square values of 0.92 were observed. Figure 1 represents the hyperbolic curve that was observed for the different outcomes across delays, indicating steep outcomes. In terms of the present study, the findings suggest direct care staff are likely to prefer implementing a treatment program for a smaller amount of time, less than 15 hours, to get immediate successful outcomes for the client. Due to the rates of individuals with disabilities increasing, the need for treatment services will continue to increase as well. Behavior analytics services involving gerontology and adult operant behavior will also continue to be in demand. These treatment programs are implemented by direct care staff, individuals who are required to follow each instruction included in the treatment program. In order to accurately provide services to the individual with disabilities, the person must do so. The results show extremely steep discounting, and the implications are detrimental to the success of the client in need and the effectiveness of the treatment program itself, because the direct staff are likely to be impulsive and they may forego a longer, more intensive and effective intervention for an easier, less effective intervention. Limited education levels and low salaries may have contributed to the steep discounting observed from the data. If the direct care staff are engaging in impulsive behavior when providing treatment programs, the effects on treatment integrity and client success are greatly reduced. The implications of this affect the organization as a whole. If the direct care staff is unwilling to commit to implementing treatment due to impulsive decision making, the client will not receive adequate treatment and the individual will not be doing their job. The results can be helpful if behavior analysts tailor the treatment programs and training to target staff understanding of behavior analytics strategies and increase buy-in. Limitations include the number of years participants had been working, small sample size, the hypothetical construct of the questionnaires, and the language used within the questionnaires, which is not typical for delayed discounting questionnaires and understanding of staff. Future research can include preference assessments for complexities of behavior treatment programs that direct care staff would be willing to implement. In conclusion, this may lead to future improvements in the language and response effort required for certain